Alright, so this is the Redmi Note 7 released this month. We're going to go through the display, the size, the specs, the camera, everything you would want to know about this phone. I've actually been really impressed with the phone so far. This is the 3GB version. As you can see, it's the jet black version. It comes in a blue and a red as well, although they call it gold. I really like the design. It's a 6.3 inch screen, and it takes up pretty much the whole of the front there. Obviously, with the design, you've got that teardrop or that water drop notch there at the top. You can see Xiaomi, the way they do their operating system, it just goes dark towards the top. So you can basically see they're trying to hide that notch at the top there because it goes dark. You can't really see that notch at the top, but obviously it gets lighter at the bottom. You can see the camera at all times. Some other phones like black out the camera, but you can definitely see that it's there. We're going to test out the earpiece and the speakers in a second. Now, Xiaomi say that they have Gorilla Glass 5 on this, on the front and the back. Now, if I just tap this, I don't know what type of Gorilla Glass 5 they're using on the back there. It does feel rigid and it feels hard, but it feels quite thin. The bottom, you get USB-C charging, which I really like, and you get 2 speaker grills at the bottom. I still don't know if those speaker grills actually are 2 speaker grills or whether they're just one and the other one is there just to look good, so it looks symmetrical, but we'll test that out in a second. Turn on that screen there, you can see the colors are really nice on this one actually. It's an LCD screen, it's not an OLED screen. Now, if you like OLED or LCD, that's up to you. What I would say about the screen is actually at the top, where it reaches the top bezels and the notch there, you can actually see that it goes a little bit black or a little bit discolored at the top there. I've seen that with a few budget or cheaper phones, the way that they manufacture the screen. It doesn't put me off the phone, it definitely doesn't. It's not really anything you'll notice. It's definitely something I notice looking at a lot of phones, that you can see it's just slightly discolored, but that is just their design, and I've seen it with a lot of different brands as well. There's no double tap to wake the screen, so you can't tap on the screen to wake it, and you can't lift the phone up and it won't automatically scan your face, so that's something to be aware of. You have to press the power button. I've set up my face with this, so you can use face unlocking, although it does tell you when you set it up that it's not as secure as PIN or fingerprint. It's really quick. I mean, it's probably quicker than Face ID, and we're in again. It's probably quicker than Face ID, but to be honest, Xiaomi tell you that it's not very secure. Again, with the fingerprint, if I just press it now, it didn't recognize. There you go, that was third time. I've had some issues with it actually. Maybe I didn't register my fingerprint well enough in the first place, but I'll just try it again. That was the second time. That was first time. Fine. Second time. So maybe I'm not putting my fingerprint on there properly, but definitely I've had some issues with that. But Face ID is really quick, so I'd probably just turn it on and use that the whole time. So let's get into the camera app for you guys. I took some pictures earlier today so we can see what this camera is like, and to be fair, I was really impressed with the images of this thing. Let's just have a look at these. If we go into the gallery, it's probably easier like that. So this was one I took on the unboxing. What I would say is that my face looks a little bit washed out. It looks a little bit lacking in color, so I think the colors are maybe a little bit muted or a little bit blue. That is just personal choice. If you want that, I think you can change it anyway. There's another one there. And this is the view from my apartment here in Shenzhen, and I was really impressed with the dynamic range on these. So let's just have a look. Now, dynamic range, seeing between, you know, the highlights and the lowlights and the colors in the buildings. There's so much detail in this photo, it's unbelievable. So even if you zoom in, you have the clouds look really great. So I'm assuming Xiaomi are using some sort of HDR mode or something on this, because everything is exposed really, really well. And I'm actually really surprised how much detail there is. Even if you zoom in literally the whole way, you can see there's still loads of detail in here on the buildings and everything like that. You can see loads of detail. All in all, from the clouds and the buildings, everything's exposed really well. So I'm really impressed with that camera initially. We'll do some more tests in the real world review that we'll look at more, but I'm really, really impressed with the detail. You can just see in the building, it keeps so much detail. Xiaomi say that this is a 48 megapixel camera on the back, which isn't exactly true because the 660 can't process those images. But anyway, let's just look at that image. It's really, really, really crisp. So I'm definitely pleased with that. This is just a selfie with portrait mode, which you can see there. And this is the one without the sharpening. So this is without any sharpening. Really, really clear. I am really impressed. That's the front camera, obviously. I'm really impressed at the image. It's got good blurring in the background. And this is the one with the beauty mode. You can see the difference, like, totally with beauty mode on and off. It smooths your skin. It makes your eyes bigger and more colorful. Whether you like that or not is up to you anyway. But you see, you can go through to albums and you can go through to stories there. If you open the camera app, you go into settings, you can do loads of different settings. You can actually take that watermark off, which I'm gonna do right now. So I can just turn that off, and when you take photos, you won't have that stupid Xiaomi watermark on your photos anymore. Why would anyone want that on their photo? No one does, so you can turn it off. If you go into the video, you can also put settings on here, different frames per second. The video quality on this at the moment is full HD. There's no 4K on this. Now I think the 660 from Snapdragon can do 4K, but for some reason it's not allowed on this. But you can do 1080p recording at 30 frames or 60 frames a second. 4K is not a deal breaker for me. I don't really care about 4K. It takes up way too much memory, and the amount of extra quality that you get from a smartphone, I don't think it matters, but you don't get it in this anyway. You have video mode, photo mode, portrait mode, which, as we've seen, I think is a really, really decent attempt from Xiaomi here. It looks really good. You can take square photos, you can do a panorama, and then the Pro mode on there. In here, in this Pro mode, is where you get the option to do 48 megapixel images. So how does it do that? Well, there's some upsampling. So this phone, as you know, it cannot process 48 megapixel images. It just can't. It's got that sensor. It's a Samsung camera sensor, and what they do is they take 4 pixels and put it into 1. There's a lot of marketing around it, but essentially it's a 12 megapixel camera. It's 12 megapixels. It takes great images. You've seen here, the images are super sharp, but it's not 48 megapixels. Anyway, in the Pro mode, you can choose the 48 megapixel mode, and that will essentially upsample the 12 megapixel images into 48 megapixel images. Wait for the real world review. We're going to take loads of images with the normal camera mode and that one as well to see if there really is any difference in quality between them. Let's just watch some video and see how that works on this screen. All right, this is me on Bilibili, and as you can see, it obviously cuts out the bottom and the top. So that's something you get because the screen is so long. You can see that it cuts off. Now, I'm not sure if you can actually squeeze in here, but that's it. So it cuts off the top and bottom when you're watching video. So it gives you that 16:9 ratio. Obviously the phone is a lot taller than that, so you're going to have those black bars. All right, so we're watching iQIYI. Here's a huge video app here in China. As you can see, what they basically do on full screen mode is they just go full screen up to the edges here, and then they stop it just before the notch. So the notch actually never gets in the way of the image when you're watching it. Different apps have different ways of dealing with the notch situation. In terms of brightness of the screen, it's really decent. It's an LCD screen, it's not an AMOLED screen, but in terms of the brightness, I really like it. I'm not a massive fan of the UI from Xiaomi making it darker at the top. I'd rather just one block color, but that's just personal preference. And Antutu benchmark, for some reason you can't do Geekbench benchmarks in China. I guess you can't download the app. Obviously, a lot of apps that you'd like to see I can't download because this isn't my normal phone, and obviously a lot of things are blocked here. But on Antutu it has 62,000. I'm not sure what that is compared to different phones, but it says it defeated 20% of users. You got the 660 from Snapdragon. Baidu here, you can see actually a lot of apps still take away that top, the notch at the top. They'll just literally just put it black at the top there, so you can't even see the notch. It doesn't go into the screen. It puts the time and everything at the top. So essentially the bottom and the top bezels are almost a similar size really. So Baidu definitely hides that. Some apps don't. So if you go into settings, you can see that just absolutely full up to the top, full white, and you can see there. I really don't think it gets in the way that much. We've seen so many phones with this design now. It's just a 2019 design. All right, let's listen to some music and see what the loudspeaker of this is like. Absolute full volume. It's not the best speakers that I've heard. It's a little bit distorted at top volume there. Not the loudest, not the deepest bass, but definitely serviceable. The earpiece at the top isn't used for a speaker when you're playing music or videos. It just comes out the bottom. Okay, so that's it. The Redmi Note 7, my initial review. Please wait for the bigger outside real world review where we give this 48 megapixel camera supposedly a test.